Do you solemnly swear affirm the testimony presented will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
You may proceed.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good afternoon, sir. If you please tell the members of the jury your name.
Ricardo Ayala.
And where are you employed?
Ayala.
You're employed where?
Sanford Police Department.
And how long have you been with the Sanford Police Department?
It'll be 11 years next month.
All right. And what's your current position?
Police officer.
And how long have you been in the patrol unit right now?
Just over a year.
All right. And before that, what was your position?
Investigations.
All right. And how long were you in investigations?
6 years.
And your duties as an investigator with the Sanford Police Department?
General and major crimes.
All right. Do you have any prior law enforcement experience before coming to the Sanford Police Department?
Yes, corrections.
And how long and where?
Total of 6 years, 5 of them in Seminole County, 1 in Lake County.
Let me turn your attention then to the evening of Sunday, February 26, 2012. Were you working at that time?
Yes, sir.
And on that evening, did you respond to the scene of a shooting at the retreat at Twin Lakes?
Yes, sir.
Were you dispatched to that scene?
Yes, sir.
What was the nature of the dispatch at first?
Suspicious person in the area.
Do you recall the time of the dispatch?
Just after 7 p.m.
Approximately 7:15, 7?
Correct.
Okay. What area of town were you in when you received the dispatch?
North end of the city.
And approximately how long did it take you to get from where you were to the retreat at Twin Lakes community?
Less than 5 minutes.
Did you receive any updates to the first dispatch as you were en route?
Yes.
And what was the nature of the dispatch?
Stated that shots were fired.
Were you the first officer on the scene?
No, sir.
Who was the first officer?
Officer Tim Smith.
If you would dim the lights, please. Officer Ayala, let me show you State's Exhibit 1. Do you recognize that as being a aerial photograph of the retreat at Twin Lakes?
Yes, sir.
Your Honor, may I approach the witness? Yes. I'll give you a laser pointer just to press that. Can you show the members of the jury where the main entrance is? With your laser pointer?
Right there.
All right. And that would be off of Oregon Avenue?
Correct.
All right. Can you show the members of the jury then where you went when you got in the neighborhood and where you parked?
Came this way, came into the entrance, went around the ways. I believe, if I'm mistaken, went around as such and parked right in this area right here.
All right. And for the record, you parked on the upper right-hand corner of the photograph?
Yes, sir.
All right. So you actually took the long way around.
Yes, I wasn't familiar with the area.
Very good. Did you see Officer Smith after you got out of your patrol car?
Yes, I did.
And where did you see him, if you could just indicate approximately the area that you saw Officer Smith?
That general area right there.
All right. And for the record, that's in the approximate area of the T. What was the lighting like back there?
Very dim, very almost dark.
Were you using a flashlight to find your way between the townhomes?
Yes, sir.
What were the weather conditions like when you arrived?
Misty. Has been raining on and off.
And what was Officer Smith doing when you first arrived?
He had a white male at gunpoint.
Did you later learn the white male's name to be George Zimmerman?
That's correct.
And you see that person in court this afternoon?
Yes, sir.
And Judge, you can raise the lights if you would. Is George Zimmerman the gentleman to my left who just stood up?
Yes, sir.
All right. Your Honor, the record should reflect that the witnesses identified the defendant.
The record will so reflect.
Did you have any interaction with the defendant at that point?
No, sir.
Why not?
I was focused on the male that was on the ground.
And the male that was on the ground, did you later learn that person's name to be Trayvon Martin?
That's correct.
And did you go over to Trayvon Martin's location?
I walked towards, yes.
And how was Trayvon Martin's body positioned when you arrived?
Face down, his hands were underneath the body.
And to your knowledge, were you the first officer to approach Trayvon Martin?
Yes.
All right. Did you know whether or not he was dead or alive at that point?
I did not.
Did you know what his involvement was at that point?
I did not.
Did you give him any commands, Trayvon Martin?
Yes, I did.
What commands did you give him?
I asked to see his hands
And where were his hands when you asked to see him?
underneath him.
He was lying on his stomach?
Correct.
Did Trayvon Martin respond physically in any way to your commands?
No, he did not.
Did Trayvon Martin respond verbally in any way to your commands?
No, he did not.
Did you see any movement from Trayvon Martin's body?
I did not.
Did you hear any sounds from Trayvon Martin's body?
I did not.
Did other Sanford Police Department officers approach you and Trayvon Martin while you were giving him those commands or shortly thereafter?
Sergeant Raimondo.
And did either you or Sergeant Raimondo attempt to get a pulse from Trayvon Martin?
Sergeant Raimondo did.
Was Sergeant Raimondo able to get a pulse?
No, sir.
Did you and or Sergeant Raimondo move Trayvon Martin's body after he failed to get a pulse?
Yes, I believe it was a joint.
I'm sorry?
I believe we moved him, yes.
Okay, how did you move him?
We turned him upside up, right side up.
All right, so you moved him from his stomach to his back?
Correct.
To your knowledge, did you move or disturb any evidence that was around his body or on his body when you rolled him over?
No, sir.
Did Trayvon Martin respond in any way, either physically or verbally, when you rolled his body over?
No, sir.
After rolling his body over, did you see anything that appeared to be a gunshot wound?
After moving it, at a later, yes.
After
He's moved over around, yes.
Yes, sir. And where was that?
It was underneath. He had a pin or a button, so it was underneath the button.
All right. He had a. Are you indicating a button on his shirt or sweatshirt?
Yes.
All right. And the gunshot wound was near that area?
It was right underneath the button itself.
All right. How did you find the gunshot wound?
How did we find? We lifted. Well, when we moved the sweater, the button kind of lifted up so you could see it went through the sweater. So at that time we lifted up his sweater and shirt.
All right. Actually exposing his bare chest?
Correct.
And you can see a gunshot wound or something that appeared to be a gunshot wound at that point?
Yes, sir.
Did you and Sergeant Raimondo perform CPR on Trayvon Martin?
Yes, sir.
And do you have CPR training?
Yes, sir.
And did either you or Sergeant Raimondo ask anybody for anything while you were performing or attempting to perform CPR?
Sergeant Raimondo was asking for a plastic bag of some sort.
And did anyone provide anything to Sergeant Raimondo or yourself?
Someone provided a bag to him, yes.
Can you describe the bag? Was it like a plastic type grocery bag?
Correct.
Do you recall the color of the bag?
I do not.
And do you recall who provided it?
I do not.
After receiving the bag, did you and Sergeant Raimondo continue to perform CPR?
Correct. We did.
At any time, did you see any signs of life from Trayvon Martin's body?
No, sir.
What was your role specifically in the administration of CPR?
I was doing chest compressions.
And what was Sergeant Raimondo's role?
He was doing mouth to mouth.
Did rescue eventually respond to the scene?
Yes.
And did the rescue personnel take over the treatment or assessment of Trayvon Martin after they arrived?
Yes.
Was Trayvon Martin pronounced dead at the scene?
Yes, he was.
Did you have any further contact or involvement with this defendant after you performed CPR on Trayvon Martin?
No, sir.
And did investigators and crime scene technicians respond to that scene while you were still present?
Yes, sir.
And did those officers and technicians take over the scene after they arrived?
Yes, sir.
Did you have any further involvement with the case?
No, sir.
Thank you, sir. Judge, that's all I have.
Thank you. Mr. O'Mara?
Thank you. Afternoon, officer.
How you doing, sir? Thank you.
Just a couple of questions. When you had heard, as you were on your way, that Officer Smith had just arrived on the scene, correct? As you were coming...
As I was getting there,
Right.
yeah, he was just arriving on scene.
Because you guys are in radio contact, weren't you, all the responding officers?
Yes, sir.
So you knew that you were right behind Officer Tim Smith to get there?
Yes.
Could you even guesstimate from the radio transmissions how fast or quickly after him you got there?
If I would guesstimate, less than 2 minutes.
Okay. Matter of fact, it was so quick that the officer still had Mr. Zimmerman at gunpoint, right?
That's correct.
In a shots fired situation, when you come into a dark area like that, it's protocol to take out your weapon and control the situation, right?
Correct.
That's not to suggest any particular danger coming from Mr. Zimmerman. That's just what you do in a situation where you have shots fired.
That's correct.
And that's appropriately for Officer Smith to have done that here, correct?
Correct.
Now, if you were to come up to me, how would you tell me, or what would you tell me to do in a situation like that, where you pull your weapon and are trying to control a situation that you're just coming upon?
I want to see your hands.
Right. And you say that, don't you?
Yes, sir.
Okay. If I had a cell phone, you think it would be appropriate if I had a cell phone, you say, see my hands, to maybe go like this?
No, it would not.
Or even like this?
No, it would not.
What would you want me to do with that cell phone?
Drop it where it's at.
Why?
That way we make sure we have no weapons and nothing in your hands.
Okay. When you came on with Smith, did you take out, right behind Smith, did you take out your weapon as well?
Yes, sir.
Same reason?
Yes, sir.
You don't know what's going on, do you?
No, we do not.
Can't see very much, can you?
No, sir.
Flashlight in one hand, your gun in the other?
No, the gun actually has a flashlight on it.
Oh, so both, gun with flashlight,
Yes.
watching and seeing what's going on.
Yes, sir.
You actually said in your report that you were protecting Officer Smith, right? Is that a
Correct.
focus, at least initially?
Correct.
Because he's at least a fellow officer potentially in a dangerous situation.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Once you realized, or did you come to realize that Officer Smith had that part of the situation, including Mr. Zimmerman, under control? Did that happen?
Well, I had my weapon out until, well, I was having my eyes on Mr. Zimmerman and Trayvon at the same time. We didn't know what was going on.
Right.
As soon as he secured Zimmerman, I went ahead and focused on Trayvon, make sure this, where the threat was coming from.
Was there another person there?
When we got there,
Yes.
or when I got there,
Yes.
there probably was. I was mostly focused on security for the other officer.
Just curious, we had some testimony that a neighbor had come out with a flashlight. It may not have caught your memory.
It doesn't, no.
Okay, because you're mainly focused on your fellow officers and the interested parties, in that case, Mrs. Zimmerman and Mr. Martin.
Yes, sir.
Okay. From your awareness of it, did Officer Smith have any concerns with securing Mr. Zimmerman?
No, after he got him secured
Okay.
and took him to his vehicle and secured him in a vehicle. He was gone. He was good.
Was Mr. Zimmerman compliant as far as you were aware?
Yes.
Did he do everything that Officer Smith asked him to do?
Yes, he did.
Did he disobey in any form that you're aware of?
No, he did not.
Did you get a look at his face?
No. I looked at it. Yes, I'm sorry. His face. Yeah, I didn't focus
Right.
at.
Sort of a quick glance?
Yes.
Did you notice the blood on his nose?
I can't tell you I did. No.
Okay. Again, not a focus of yours once he was secured?
Exactly.
At that point, I think you said a moment ago, you shifted over to Trayvon Martin, who was off at that point sort of to the left?
Yes.
Okay. And it was quite dark, right?
Yes, sir.
You would not have been able to see Trayvon Martin's body but for your flashlight. Is that accurate?
Yeah, it's pretty accurate.
And I think that you testified you attempted to do what you could as a first responder to deal with Trayvon Martin.
Correct.
And you did not see, did you see George Zimmerman again when he was in the back of Tim Smith's patrol car?
No.
Never even went over there?
No, I didn't make contact with him after he was secured.
Okay. Just a moment, Your Honor. Thanks, Mr. Chairman. No further questions.
Thank you. Will you redirect?
Just briefly, Officer Ayala, when the defendant was complying with Officer Smith's commands, was Officer Smith holding him at gunpoint?
When I arrived there, yes.
Thank you. Judge, that's all I have.
Thank you. May Officer Ayala be excused.
You may.
Thank you very much. You may be excused. Call your next witness.
Stacy Livingston.
Just over a year.
All right. And before that, what was your position?
Investigations.
All right. And how long were you in investigations?
6 years.
And your duties as an investigator with the Sanford Police Department?
General and major crimes.
All right. Do you have any prior law enforcement experience before coming to the Sanford Police Department?
Yes, corrections.
And how long and where?
Total of 6 years, 5 of them in Seminole County, 1 in Lake County.
Let me turn your attention.
Do you solemnly swear affirm the testimony presented will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do. See the dispatch.
North end of the city.
And approximately how long did it take you to get from where you were to the retreat at Twin Lakes community?
Less than 5 minutes.
Did you receive any updates to the first dispatch as you were en route?
Yes.
And what was the nature of the dispatch?
Stated that shots were fired.
Were you the first officer on the scene?
No, sir.
Who was the first officer?
Officer Tim Smith.
You know, if you would dim the lights, please. And then to the evening of Sunday, February 26, 2012, were you working at that time?
Yes, sir.
And on that evening, did you respond to the scene of a shooting at the retreat at Twin Lakes?
Yes, sir.
Were you dispatched to that scene?
Yes, sir.
What was the nature of the dispatch at first?
Suspicious person in the area.
Do you recall the time of the dispatch?
Just after 7 p.m.
Approximately 7:15, 7...
Correct.
Okay. What area of town were you in when you were...
You may proceed.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good afternoon, sir. If you please tell the members of the jury your name.
Ricardo Ayala.
And where are you employed?
Ayala.
You're employed where?
Sanford Police Department.
And how long have you been with the Sanford Police Department?
It'll be 11 years next month.
All right. And what's your current position?
Police officer.
And how long have you been in the patrol unit right now?